Good evening, comrades. So tonight we're going to be talking about blue belt affirmations and how to talk to yourself in a way that is helpful, that will take you out of anguish, that will take you out of anxiety and depression. This follows on from the last Google Hangout where I was saying that a good quote from Anthony Robbins is that the quality of your life is a direct reflection of the quality of your communication with yourself and with others. And we started talking about the ways in which people with CPTSD need to reformat affirmations so the affirmations will work for them. And I gave you like a white belt and a yellow belt version. And I said there's a blue belt version, but it takes a little bit more explaining. This is very much what I'm going to explain to you, and I'm going to do it fairly briefly, as brief as I can be. What NLP practitioners who've been trained in decent schools by decent teachers are trained to do with people, especially as it pertains to hypnosis. So I'm going to teach you this as a form of self-hypnosis. You're actually literally, your communication with yourself that you're going to be improving is going to be a form of self-hypnosis. Please excuse me, I've had a cold. And the first key to the blue belt affirmation is the first thing is really, really simple. It's just suggestion. Whenever you think about hypnosis or the subject of hypnosis and the words that are associated with it, one of them that pops up time and again is suggestion and auto-suggestion or post-hypnotic suggestion, that kind of thing. And the word suggestion is interesting, and it actually gives you a clue very explicitly and directly to a powerful tool that you have at your fingertips for when you're talking to yourself. Affirmations are usually framed as commands, not suggestions. And the problem is with a command is that you can create a polarity response to that command. So if you say, I'm a beautiful and wonderful snowflake that has been farted out of the unicorn's bottom hole, then your brain might fire back with, no, you're not, you're a fucking nitwit. But if you suggest very gently, then you're less likely to create this sudden resistance or slamming on of the brakes, this sudden polarity response, if it's a gentle suggestion. Now, the cool thing is with gentle suggestions, the things I'm going to tell you when it pertains to hypnosis and self-hypnosis are going to sound too simple and you won't believe that they work. So what I'd like you all to try and do, with being of the light side of the force and being concerned with our karmic bank accounts at all time and only using our powers for good, at some time in the next 24 hours, I'd like you to suggest doing something. Use a suggestion on somebody you work with, somebody you live with, somebody close to you, for something nice, or something at least neutral, like drink more water, or hey, maybe you could smile a little bit more. That's a suggestion. It's a very, very passive, very, very indirect thing. It's enormously powerful. And what I've noticed in myself is even when I've jokingly made suggestions in a sort of hypnotic context to people, just through conversation, is that I end up doing those same suggestions. So I'll actually like find myself in that post-hypnotic state without consciously thinking about it, just doing what I just told somebody else to do. So which is why this is another reason why it's a good thing to tell people to do things and tell them to feel good for no reason, and smile and be happy and drink plenty of water and wear sunscreen and useful things like that, than to tell them to do something that sucks. So suggestion is powerful, and it gets past the ego, it gets past the conscious filters that otherwise would stop it when your automatic response would be no. In martial arts, a suggestion is more like Tai Chi or Aikido or any Japanese art that has the word Ju in it, Jiu-Jitsu or Judo, but it literally means Jiu-Jitsu, Judo. Ju literally means soft, it's yin, it's yielding, it's suggestive. And it's the opposite of being too yang and too forceful. If you say, okay, now I want you to drink a glass of water, that person might turn around and go, no, fuck you. Why would they do that? It's a very natural instinct. And it's just that we fight for balance all the time. So if I walk up to you and I put my hand on your shoulder and I push you, you must fight me. You must resist that. Otherwise you're going to fall over. And you'll do it unconsciously without thinking about it, because you must fight for your balance physically as you must fight for it emotionally. If I walk up to you and I place my hand behind your shoulder with one hand and put my hand on the front here, and I show you that you'll be supported as I move you, and I gently start to move you by rocking, you're more likely, well, at some point you're going to be like, Richie, what the fuck are you doing? Get off me and make me a cup of tea, you weirdo. But you're more likely to not give me that resistance than to just go with it. So suggest gently. The power of gentle suggestion is huge. I want you to try it with somebody else so that you can see how it works for yourself, so that you'll have the proof, the new belief that, fuck, this is actually quite powerful. You can do it yourself. So whatever it is you want to get yourself to do. For some people, the raw drill instructor, screaming at themselves works, and that's fine. And sometimes if you need immediate motivation, then do the drill instructor thing. Do the drill instructor screaming at you saying, get up, you maggot, and go and do what needs to be done, blah, blah, blah. But more powerfully, and that which will actually just stick in the unconscious without requiring any conscious effort or strain or stress or muscular to it, is just a suggestion. Suggestions are usually framed, well, I'm going to tell you how to frame them in a perfect way in just a moment, but to give you a brief outline, a little taster of what we're going to be talking about in the next section, they're framed in a certain way, and it's usually done a little bit more passively as, perhaps this is something that you might like to do. Perhaps you might like to sit up a little bit straighter, straighten your spine a little bit, raise your chin, kind of smile for no reason whatsoever. If you weren't breathing that deeply, you might want to take a deeper breath. I don't know, you might want to stretch. I don't know, I'm not telling you to stretch. I'm saying people might sometimes, at times, makes them feel good when this happens, and they just do something that feels good in the moment. And that could be stretching. It could be scratching their nose. I don't know what it is, but that's a suggestion. So if you found yourself beginning to move, that's compliance. But you're offering me a degree of compliance. You're consenting to that. If I suggest, then I'm not firing off your trigger for, well, I didn't consent to that, so I'm not going to do it. I'm inviting you to consent to it. Maybe you would like to stretch. Maybe you'd like to straighten your back. Maybe you're aware, and from a physiological point of view, if you sit up straight and breathe a little bit more deeply and straighten your spine, it's actually good for you mentally and physically. So you might want to try it right now. I don't know. Maybe you didn't know that. And the only way you're going to know that is to actually do it. These are all suggestions. This is post-hypnotic suggestions. This is conversational hypnosis. Now I'm suggesting you do that to yourself. So whatever it is, I don't know, if you've been feeling depressed and down, then maybe you need to, you just feel like, God, sometimes I don't even think there's a real major reason. If you're really depressed, you should seek therapy and counseling and get the reason why it's out. But sometimes it can be a habit. Sometimes it's just a habit of not feeling good, or a habit of engaging in a lot of negative thinking. It's not an emotional flashback, and it's not genuine grief. It's just this habitual thing. And if you intuitively feel that, then maybe you might feel like, whether it's a habit or not, it might be good for you to practice being more cheerful. So how would you do that? If you say, okay, now be cheerful, that's not a very cheerful thing. But if you suggest it gently, it has much more chance of going through. Let me turn on the question and answer function. I don't even know if you can hear me. I'm just talking, and I haven't checked to see if my mic is on and working and stuff. Okay, so the next level is really elegant, really smart ways of making suggestions. This comes from NLP. It's one of the parts of NLP that is useful. So it's not eye accessing cues. And it's a development. It grew organically in a very, very sensible way from something called the Metamodel, by which Richard Bandler and John Grinder were modeling the effective communication styles of good therapists. They would go and watch really, really good therapists who were getting good results, and they would model their communication styles, and they call that the Metamodel. And then they modeled an excellent hypnotherapist who's getting great results called Milton Erickson, and they created the Milton Model. And they noticed that often the Milton Model seemed to have, wasn't the opposite of, but seemed to have a reflection in the Metamodel. And the Milton Model is just a way of very artfully making elegant suggestions that help people to feel better. So this is very much part of what I wanted to show you in terms of Blue Belt affirmations. You can look this up. You can look up Milton Model language patterns or Ericksonian hypnosis. And the idea here, there's a load of these, and I'm not going to go through them all. Modal operators, mind reading, lost performative, simple deletions, so on and so forth. There's a ton of these if you're interested in it, in studying it. I'll just show you a few that I think work quite well. So one of the Milton Model techniques that he uses for making post-hypnotic suggestions would be something called mind reading. Mind reading is known across psychotherapeutic circles, and it's exactly as it sounds. It's actually a fault in communication, which is that you assert that you know what the thoughts and feelings of another person are without specifying the process by which you came to know their thoughts. You just assume that you're a mind reader. And you're like, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking I'm a narcissist. The Metamodel would use mind reading by challenging it. So if somebody said, I just know that nobody likes me. I just know that when people see me, they just hate me. And the Metamodel would encourage you to say, well, how do you know that? For what we're looking at, affirmations for people with CPTSD, the Milton Model takes mind reading and deliberately uses it and says, I know that you want to know. It makes an assumption. And when you use this kind of faulty or vague language, one of the side effects of it seems to be that it switches off the ego, which is likely to put up a resistance. So if I was doing hypnosis work with somebody and I wanted to make a suggestion, or if I was just coaching them, and as I was coaching them, I thought it was useful to give them a post-hypnotic suggestion conversationally, I would just say, look, I know that you want to know and you're ready to know that you couldn't possibly know what the thoughts and feelings of other people are as they're looking at you, because that just doesn't make any logical sense, does it? If you're making a suggestion to yourself, then you can use that same framework of language. I know that you want to know, or I know that I want to know now. When you do that, it's not logical. It's not logical language, but what it does is it draws you down into a more suggestible state where you are open to suggestion. And when you're open to suggestion, boys and girls, it's real simple. Like the occult, the hidden knowledge of hypnosis and all the rest of it, it's actually very, very straightforward. It kind of treats, in my view, the human being as being like a machine, like a computer that's taking on commands. So as you open up the unconscious, you give the unconscious a command. If you give the command using the right code, the right syntax, the right software program, it's highly likely it will follow it if it doesn't have a reason not to. So if you wanted to suggest to somebody, I know that you want to know that it's okay for you to feel confident now, and that you can challenge these thoughts that you have when you feel like people are looking at you and judging you negatively, that maybe they're not judging you at all. Maybe they don't really see you in the way that you think they do, and they're just kind of emotionally pH neutral. This is a useful suggestion that you could make when you're communicating with yourself. So in the last Google Hangout, we were talking about using very artful language to negotiate with ourselves, you know, like politico speak or legalese. This is an extension of that. This is, if there's politico speak and legalese, this would be like hypno NLP speak. Another element of the Milton model that I want to give you is something called a lost performative. A lost performative. You've got to remember that, who is it, Bandler or Grinder? John Grinder, one of the co-founders of NLP, is first and foremost a linguist. So this actually comes straight from linguistics, a lost performative. Value judgments, which may include an unspecified comparison where the performer of the value judgment is left out. This is very much political speak as well. You know, we may, we know that it's important for a nation to defend its borders, and we believe, it is believed, absolutely, that at times aggressive action must be taken preemptively. this is political speak for, we're going to bomb the fuck out of them because we're twitchy and they look like they may be vaguely dangerous sometime. In terms of language that you can use on another person, you would say to them something like, it's a good thing and could be a useful thing that you start to explore the ways in which you can get curious about how you could be more confident in your interactions with other people. There's another little technique I slipped in there, which is the sentence is so long, your conscious mind is struggling to keep up with what I said at the beginning. And so I'm not saying this does happen, nobody really knows what happens, but it seems to be that as the conscious mind struggles to keep up with the beginning of the sentence, the unconscious mind opens up, because the conscious mind is kind of distracted, if you like, and then the content of the suggestion or the command, the covert command that I want to give you to feel good, slips in. So what I want you, I'm doing it now. But if I was doing it and as I'm talking, as I'm delivering a seminar or I'm talking to a coaching client, this is how I would do it. So that being said, remembering what I just said before, which was really important, I want you all to realize, and I know that you already really know this, that of course, it's a really good thing to be curious about how other people's perspectives can make us feel about ourselves, knowing that it's all right to feel good about yourself and to feel confident in the world and move around feeling good, because it's likely that when we feel good, we make other people feel good too, because your state transmits, right? So the other little sneak trick that I throw in there is truisms. You throw in a truism where you know that like your state transmits, right? And you're like, yeah, of course I know that. But there's so much words. Good language, bro. Do you even linguistics? There's so many words there that you can't consciously keep up with it. And this is how these suggestions go through. When you're talking to yourself, I mean, you really, like, if you really want to use this stuff, you have to actually get the list and go through it and write the affirmations. Take the time. I did it. Anybody who's good at this stuff has done it. I have my notes from when I was 18 coming up with variations of what I'm giving you. It takes work. It's not like an app you can just download and it just goes into your brain like in the Matrix and then you just know it. These are skills that you have to actually develop. But lost performative is a good thing to use on yourself. If you wanted to say it to yourself and your affirmation was to be more cheerful, you could say, of course, it's a good thing to wonder and be curious about being cheerful and feeling good and just choosing to be happy from time to time, which could be as small as just smiling more often and maybe making other people feel good and smiling at people in my environment, knowing they're smiling back at me and that I put that smile on their face. That's kind of cool too. That's one of the long-winded suggestions where you've slipped in the lost performative. Let's pick up another one. I did my NLP training when I was 18. I did it with Richard Bandler and with Paul McKenna. Paul McKenna is a famous English hypnotherapist, but he was originally a radio DJ, and he's very good at all of these. He's got them so trained into his unconscious, this just comes out of his mouth very, very quickly. Let's see. Presupposition. A presupposition is just the linguistic equivalent of assumptions. So if I want you to feel more cheerful, I could already start a sentence with the assumption that, well, as you've already begun to change your behavior and do the things that make you feel good, you're already more cheerful. So that lets us know that you're ready in your life to move on. I made that up on the spur of the moment. It wasn't great, but it had the presupposition at the beginning of it that you're already getting better, that you're already feeling more cheerful. So I'm doing it now. I have to tell you before I do it. So as we're talking, and you're sat there and you're listening to me and you're feeling the weight of your body in the chair and you're looking at that picture of me on the screen and you're thinking about what it is I'm trying to say and you're trying to sock up everything I'm telling you. And some of this stuff is quite complicated. Obviously, you realize you're already quite a long way in overcoming your emotional flashbacks and teaching yourself about CPTSD. And you're really, really getting a grasp of what CPTSD is. And as you're getting that grasp of CPTSD and you're learning more, you sort of feel more calm and more balanced and more confident. And that alone just allows you to get the traction to overcome emotional flashbacks. How did that do? I thought that was okay. I thought that was pretty good. Again, you know, what that does is it's throwing in presuppositions, and there are little bits of covert commands in there, like you are feeling better about your emotional flashbacks. You are now feeling more calm and more comfortable. There's a thing you can do where you say people feel more calm, more comfortable. People feel more cheerful. And you say, what people? And your brain will just, your unconscious will just automatically assume that you're talking about yourself. Somebody asked me in the seminar in London, what about being more confident in public speaking? The presupposition that would go in there, and the people feel, the lost performative that would go in there, would be, well, you know, obviously, as you're already, by asking me the question about being more confident of speaking in public, you already are learning to become more confident day by day, because you realize, as many people already have, that it's really just a skill set. A lot of people used to think that confidence was something you're just born with, like it was a piece of your DNA or your genetics. And now you're realizing, as you grow in confidence in your public speaking, that it really isn't. It actually is a skill that as you work on, and as you are working on it now, you just learn to feel good about it, and you learn to know that you can feel confident doing it. That wasn't perfect, but that's an example of what you would do. So it's next level legalese, it's next level political speak, and it's using these beautifully written out rules for getting the conscious mind to shut down a little bit and to just accept these unconscious suggestions. Paul McKenna, as I was telling you, fantastic coach when it comes to this particular skill set. He just flows with them really, really rapidly. He's a great hypnotherapist, but as I say, he did start out in radio DJing first. So he would, what would he say? He would say, so as you're sitting and listening to the sound of my voice, only feeling as good as you need to in order to go down and relax deeper, it's Saturday drive time. But actually, he uses a skill, a little sort of a tool or a trick that I used earlier, which is you feed back the listener's experience to them. You tell them you're sat here watching me on a screen in a room, sitting in a chair and breathing. And your unconscious mind goes, oh my God, it's like he's psychic. He totally knows what I'm. And as I'm feeding back to you what you're experiencing, that also can drop you into a lighter level of trance. Don't get freaked out with the whole hypnosis idea. I put you to sleep, you do snap my fingers, you walk around the stage and think you're a chicken and humiliate yourself. I'm not going to get into that debate right now. That's not what I'm talking about. I don't find that stuff useful. It's been proven that a lot of that is about consent and exhibitionism, which is, you know, why it usually takes place in an environment where people are disinhibited by alcohol. That's not what I'm talking about here. And similarly, because there's that myth of, oh, hypnos is Greek for sleep, so you must be asleep and like a zombie, and then you just do as you're told. It's not that, and it's not necessary. I've done good coaching and counseling work with people by using very, very light levels of trance. The only level of trance that is deep enough for you to feel better and start to heal is that which you're in right now. That's a post-hypnotic suggestion, by the way. So as you watch my YouTube videos and you feel good, that's because watching a YouTube video and going, oh, okay, I'm going to listen to him now. That's a little trance in which you can usually be given suggestions that will permit you to make evolutionary leaps in your therapeutic process and begin to heal. And as you're sat there listening to that, your brain will be going, that can't be true. That defies everything I know about hypnosis. Honestly, you listen to a book on tape, you go and get Game of Thrones as an audio book, or War and Peace as an audio book, and then you go to the gym and you run and you listen to that. What was that? I was listening to Joe Rogan and Lance Armstrong the other day on a podcast. That's trance. I'm tranced out. I'm not deeply in trance. I'm not gaga, but like I'm in a state of trance where what is being said, for a start, it's going straight into my ears. and a lot of the external noise is being locked out, and I'm giving it single-minded focus of concentration, of attention. That's it. So if you go, okay, look at my finger, you don't even need to look at a watch that is swinging. If you just look at my finger, breathe in deeply, and then think about a time where you felt good-ish, you're in trance. That's it. Doesn't require more than that. And you're now in a suggestible state. So feel good and live a happy life, and send me chocolate cookies forever. Not forever, for a bit. So I'm really running through this very quickly because I don't want to overwhelm people. It's a useful use of your time because it'll improve your communication with other people. Wow, what a sentence that was. With other humans. If you can learn these language patterns, it's a useful skill to have, to be able to make a suggestion to somebody. And it also helps you to become more conscious of how you think with yourself. Because in that London seminar, one of the things I wanted to present to people as a form of therapy, of moving forward, was a piece of philosophy. It was to say, okay, psychology sprang from philosophy. Let's take it back to the old school philosophy schools. In order to become sane again, in order to get emotionally regulated again, what would you be taught in a philosophy school? Well, you would be taught, like probably in your first term or semester, what critical thinking is and what critical thinking skills are. You would be taught what a logical fallacy is, and you would be taught what a cognitive bias is. Somebody pointed this out to me recently. In order to be in an emotional flashback, the cognition, the thoughts, the mental processing that goes with that must be full of logical fallacy and must be loaded with cognitive bias and must have a total lack of critical thinking. If you take any kind of emotional flashback, let's deal with something really, really simple, like just catastrophizing. Simple example, boyfriend hasn't called me, he's driving home, he's 5 minutes later than he would be normally. I spat all over my laptop. Let's talk about NLP. And I catastrophize, and I start to imagine that either he's had a car accident and he's been hurt, or he's now having an affair with somebody, whatever. That's catastrophizing. And I go into an emotional flashback. That could be, absolute rage. How dare he do this to me? Or it could be one of absolute terror because I'm terrified that, whatever. But there's a failure there of critical thinking. Instead of being able to go, okay, hold your horses, calm down. What's the raw data that we actually have here? Let's be objective. Let's be scientific. What do I know to be true? And what is my brain and my emotions and my adrenaline spiked animal panic mode throwing up at me as a message that I know is not true? So what do I identify as being true? And what are the messages my brain in its panic mode is sending me that I know cannot be true? And then start to work through it. Like, where's the logical fallacy here? Where's the cognitive bias here? We can't do everything all in one session. But that to me is a useful skill set. This is part of that. Expanding your understanding of language, expanding your understanding in the ways in which language, in which we do literally live inside language, we live inside of metaphors, and your ability to grasp a metaphor and have the right word for a thing without wanting to be amateurly dramatic is the difference between life and death. The reason why this channel works, if and when it works, and why these YouTube videos are popular, if they are with some people, and when they are with some people, is just that. Why am I always talking about films? Why am I always talking about popular culture? Why am I always swearing? Why am I always telling dirty jokes? Why am I always doing silly voices and all the rest of that stuff? Is it because I'm spurious and I think that that's cute? Yes, but also, apart from being a spurious nitwit on the internet, it's actually very well thought through, quite patiently crafted communication that I know has or can have a very, very powerful effect. And it's basically just metaphor. Nothing I've ever told you on this channel is information, raw information that you wouldn't have got from a better, more reliable source. or that you couldn't have just by a quick Google search. All I can do is represent it to you in a way that is more interesting and that makes more sense and that has a stronger metaphor. Okay, I'm going to drop the Milton model for now. Please look it up. Please spend the time to go and have a play with that. And listen, don't underestimate the power of simple hypnosis and of simply allowing somebody, in this case, me, to talk directly in your ear through short audio hypnosis things and give you suggestions. Now, if you don't like my voice, that's not going to work for you. If you don't like my style, that's not going to work for you. But if you like it, then it will, and it will work very powerfully. There's a course that I've never really talked about on the channel because I'm kind of disorganized. It's called the First Aid Kit, because I get questions all the time like, well, what should I do right after ending a relationship with a cluster B personality? How do I deal with emotional flashbacks? We did a course, myself and Layla Lorick, called the First Aid Kit. I'll put a link for that, or you can just go and look for it on the Spartan Life Coach website. And that is based around a structure of, okay, we've all had this experience. You're in full-blown panic mode. You've just terminated the relationship. You're spinning. You're like Sandra Bullock in space with no tether, spinning around. And the earth is, have you seen that film Gravity? Sandra Bullock, that's really, wow, it's intense. I saw that in the cinema. It blew my mind. And she's spinning. That's not a spoiler. That happens soon. And then I'll say nothing about the rest of the film. It's worth a go. It's really, really good. And you feel extremely panicky and disorientated, and you've got nothing to hold on to because you're spinning in a vacuum. This is the course. It's like break glass and apply the course. And we just tried to provide a structure, a step-by-step structure of what you can do to reground yourself, to begin to overcome the emotional flashbacks, to get over the relationship and come back to yourself. And the structure is a chapter that explains what you need to do and why you need to do it very briefly. And then a 10 to 12 minute long audio. I'm reluctant to even say hypnosis. It's like audio suggestions around that subject for diminishing emotional flashbacks, for overcoming your people pleaser syndrome, for reframing the narrative of your relationship with that person in a way that doesn't serve you, and so on and so forth. I think there's about 10 chapters in that course. The feedback that we've had from it has been really, really good. I haven't mentioned it in a YouTube video, as I say, because I'm a little bit disorganized. I should have done. Sorry about that. It's been available for a while too. It's a good course. And if you're interested in experimenting with what the effects of just permitting a suggestion to go into your ears once or twice a day, like if you did one 10-minute one in the morning, one 10-minute one at night, and you really stop, like you can't cook and do it, you can't like mow the lawn and do it. You just sit on your fucking couch and let me talk to you for 10 minutes. You're here because you want something. You know, you want to get from point A to point B. Give me that time. Let me try. Let me at least try. Give me 3 days of that. Get the first aid course. It's on offer right now anyway. It's on offer for like 5 days or something. So it's cheaper at the moment. As an experiment for yourself. If nothing else, it's an experiment for you in hypnosis. Some people have claimed to me and to Layla Lorick after the fact that it changed everything for them. It completely changed their whole perspective on things. And I'm pleased. I'm not that surprised because the course just gets to the point and it goes straight in the ear. Like I just talk to you and tell you things, and then I ask you to repeat some sentences which function as affirmations, which will permit you to build new beliefs that should allow you to feel better about the situation and to begin to move on. I think I did that inside of 39 minutes. Are you proud of me? Less waffle. Okay, good. Right, in the question and answer section, the video keeps freezing. Oh no. Damn it. That sucks. Let me go and see if anybody else has had any problems. What I want to do is I want to get straight into some questions. I want to cover as many questions as I can today. Let me see if anybody else had any problems first. Google is being. I was late on today because I was in a fight with Google Plus. I am not a fan of Google Plus at all. Okie dokie. Oh, the sound is bad. Oh, that sucks. I'm really sorry about that, guys. I don't know why the video is freezing, and I don't know why the sound is bad. I'm sorry about that. Maybe I'm getting a problem with my internet signal at this end. Okay, I'm just going to surge ahead and answer a couple of questions that I got. Okay. The first one I want to answer is how do we unlearn people feeling overly responsible for the feelings of others if we spent our whole lives emotionally parenting our parents? That one comes, I think the gentleman's name was William, and it's a great question. How do we unlearn feeling overly responsible for the feelings of others if we spent our whole lives emotionally parenting our parents? The true people pleaser, the person who doesn't have their own core, who doesn't have their own strong sense of self and is likely to permit a full-blown abusive toxic cluster B into their lives to sort of fill them up, is 9 times out of 10 going to be raised in an environment where the parent demanded that the child take on their emotions. Like, no, there's no room for you to have emotions, kid. You need to take my emotions on. So this is usually a very boundary breaking, very aggressive, it could be passively aggressive, but still aggressive, bullying, demanding parent. How do you unlearn feeling overly responsible for the feelings of others? Well, you could try, if I follow your language reality, sir, you could try and directly unlearn feeling overly responsible for the feelings of others. There's a course there's a part of the course, the self-assertiveness course that I've created, that does exactly that, that attempts to help the person listening overcome those neurotic feelings of I must take on the feelings of others. And there's a lot of affirmations there, like, we're all adults, your problems are your problems, I don't have to be responsible for how you feel, I'm only responsible for how I feel, I'm not responsible for your happiness, I'm responsible for my happiness, I can learn to say no without it being a big deal, I can learn to say no and to smile, and so on and so forth. That's one method. The other method would be to actually go a bit deeper than that and to look at and therapy and heal the ways in which your parent or parents, plural, forced you to take on their feelings. Maybe a bit of both. Maybe a two-pronged approach would help. So you can either attack it directly, or you can attack the thing that you're doing directly and be like, okay, I'm going to stop doing that. You treat it like an addiction. That's the way I do it when I'm doing it. I don't see it as being a good thing. I call it an addiction. I say, this is an addiction. This is something, this is a neurotic, comforting behavior that I'm addicted to doing through indoctrination, brainwashing, and slave training. And that's not okay, because I'm not a slave. And I don't want to be constantly looking to what some fucking evil master demands of me. And the only reason I ever did do that as a child, it was under the pain of death, under the threat of being tortured, in one form or another. So it's an emotional wound, it's an emotional scar. And then, as I say, the other way would be to actually go deeper than that and sort of look and say, well, what happened? And let's acknowledge that with a good professional there. What was it that actually happened? And how did it play out? And what was the effect on you of that playing out? And then how does that make you feel? Okay, look at it, really get into it, really look at it and express how you feel about it. And then seek to restructure, retrain, repattern, and move on. At the end of the day, the things that you were trained under trauma, under brainwashing as a child to do, they're not easy to get out. But not easy doesn't mean impossible. Not easy doesn't mean give up. I did it. And if I can do it, I know that anybody can do it. So you can do it, but it's not going to be, I can't tell you, oh, follow these 5 steps and you're going to be fine. It's going to be, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. It might work for a bit, and then you might get like a an allergic reaction to the process, and you might go into an emotional flashback, and then you'll find doing progress via another more circuitous route. You just have to be really determined and be like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to conquer this thing. And you do it like that. That's you know, it's not a boil in the bag, particularly neat answer, but I'm afraid it's the only truth I'm aware of at the moment. But thank you for that question. Questions are now coming up. This video keeps freezing. Okay. Hi Richard, my question is personal to you, and I apologize if it's too personal and you may want to skip it. Did you eventually forgive your dad? And if so, did you use affirmations? That woke Max up. Max didn't like that long, loud farting noise. Forgive is a tricky word, and forgive is a trigger word for many people. If I may just offer like feedback to people, I've noticed it's particularly triggering for Americans who were raised Christian, in a way that it's not for Brits. And I'm not saying that's because we're not as crazy as Americans. That's not what it is. My suspicion as an outsider to American culture is that you've had forgive like forced on you more than we have. We're not really told. Like, forgiveness is there in the Christian teaching I got when I was growing up, but it wasn't like jammed up my arse jaggedly, painfully, in a way that left a mark that I don't like anymore. So I need to cover forgiveness on a video, but I know it's going to drive some people crazy. I will forgive. Nah, I don't need to forgive. I can't forgive anybody who behaves that way to people, to children. And I don't need to, and nobody can ask me to. And it's not necessary in order for me to move on. I can let go. I can move on. I can selfishly process it in such a way as like it's not on my mind. But forgiveness is it's a dirty whore, a dirty, used up, smelly public toilet crack whore of a word now, because it's been misused so much, unfortunately. Forgiveness in its most boundaries and beautiful manifestation, yeah, you know, I don't like, if you mean like, if it means letting go, then fine. But in the other manifestations of like, if I don't forgive, I'm going to go to hell, or I need to forgive because I want to do my best impression of a guy with magical powers who comes from Palestine and is the son of a carpenter 2,000 to 2,400 years ago. Fuck off. You know, it's just fuck off. Just tell your story to somebody else. I like all kinds of stories. I thought The Watchmen was good. I liked Arkham Asylum. I never really got into Spider-Man. He's such a prissy, good, preppy little boy. Spider-Man, similarly. The Batman's kind of cool because, you know, he doesn't have any superpowers. He's just a crazy rich guy with complex PTSD and the fight form response. He wants to beat the fuck out of people. But he's kind of a conservative's wet dream as well. But anyway, I find these stories as important and as interesting as other people's stories. When you say the word forgive, I can't unbind it from the Abrahamic traditions. I can't, particularly Christianity, that was shoved into my orifices, down my throat and up my arse, and I spew it out. It is a lukewarm church, and I spew it out. I just have no. So yeah, forgiveness. You know, why does this stuff happen? Why are Catholics like this? Did you watch the film Spotlight about what happened in Boston? Jesus, what would Jesus say? What would Jesus say, you fucking dirty priests? What is wrong with you? They got to stop that celibacy stuff. I tell you, kids, it's not so good for you. Anyone. So Lisa says maxi time. You're right. Once we start talking about Catholics, you start talking about my father, it gets a little confusing over here. Maxifer. He's not responding. Biscuit. Wow. Max. 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 Oi. Get up and dance for the people, you. Max. I walked him a lot today. He's real sleepy. He's real sleepy right now. When he wakes, he's so cute. When he wakes up, I'm going to point the camera at him. I don't know whether you're going to see it, and I can't check. But he's down there. Yes. Oh, now you woke up. Maxie, blink it off. Come and get a biscuit. Oh, he's not interested in me. Shut up. It's late. I'm trying to sleep over here. Do you want a biscuit? He's giving me such a dirty look. I'm just going to let him sleep. Just go back to sleep. Okay. Let's get into some more of these questions here. Max, come. Come. Oh, you're scared of the wire. Yeah, come on. Maxie, come. Look. Maxie, what's this? Okay. We're having total confusion times. Okay, sit. It's just so people can see your face. Do you know how happy you make people? Look. Maxie, what's this? Look here. Yes. Whilst you're in the world, it can't be that bad. There you go. That's your maxi time. Boom. You're a very famous and important individual, Tavarish. Okay, go sleepy. All right, I got another good question here. It says, how important is journaling in recovery? How important is it? It's relatively important. I got a lot out of journaling for a period of time. I think it's a thing that points to a thing that's very important. And the thing that it points to is the story that you're telling yourself about what has happened. You've got to examine the narrative of what's happened. So depending on where you are in your recovery, if you're struggling for things, then try journaling. One experience I would just share with you really, really briefly that I had whilst journaling, which proved to me what a strange thing consciousness and subjective experience is that I wrote something in a journal post and read it again 3 months later. So this was like a journal post that was within a month of me splitting up with my ex. It was super abusive ex. I read that journal post again 3 months later, and I couldn't believe it was me that wrote that, to the extent that I started to fantasize in a paranoid delusion that my laptop had been hacked. I was like, there's no way I would ever say anything that crazy or that ridiculous. Now you're thinking, what is it you said? I can't remember, but I just know that if you imagine like a timeline, the nexus of the explosion around being with a cluster B will pull you into it, and your sanity gets pulled in with it. And I wasn't well 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, 2 years after the relationship, but I'd gotten well enough that within 3 months down the line, I already couldn't believe what I was believing just 3 months previous, if that makes sense. So it's important. It is very important. Okay. Still struggling with my narcissist ex-husband. Any advice on how to grey rock when co-parenting? I love your work, Richie. That's a great question. It's a course that I actually need to do because it's a very, very large question. I think this is a concern that a lot of people have, is what do you do when you're co-parenting? How are you supposed to go grey rock when you've got your kids involved and time with your kids and exposure to your kids is being held hostage in this scenario by what you know is a very abusive personality? Your ability to handle your own emotional flashbacks needs to be at black belt level. Your self-communication needs to be at black belt level. The buttons that you have, the emotional wounds that they previously would have been able to provoke, you need to cover them, you need to shield them, and you need to get very, very good at that very, very quickly. I've never done it. I've never had kids and then experienced these kinds of custody battles and co-parenting situations that a lot of you are forced into now. I've seen good people. I think I said this in the last Google Hangout. Very good people, very wise, very conscious people driven to distraction by those kinds of scenarios. And why not? You know, it's their child at the end of the day. What would be more valuable to them than that? I'm asked here by Goku Clone X. Goku Clone X. Do you feel that our own individual personalities are innate? What? Or do we have to? Whoa! Everything moved. Sorry, Goku Clone X. Or do we have to create our own after living as a projection of others? Okay, let me deal with the first question. Do you feel that our individual personalities are innate? I don't know. I used to be very much on the side of the argument that no, we're just a product of our environments. And then in more recent years, I've seen evidence that actually, yeah, there are genetic components that do seem to have a big impact on people's behaviors and personalities. This is very evident when you're dealing with dogs. We fostered a dog recently that was a rescue that was a Rhodesian and pit bull mix, and yeah, you could see certain tendencies there that you know, it's just not good if a dog is bred through generations to do a certain job. And as loving as they can be, because he was a very, very loving dog, there are certain instincts that can kick in another situation, another environment that are, you know, pretty fucking terrifying. Yeah, so are our personalities innate? I don't know. I mean, it's a very broad, it's quite a broad philosophical question. Dennis says, thanks, mate. I'm reading Pete Walker's brilliant book, The Tao of Fully Feeling, and he mentions the blame forgiveness aspect. I'm a Cockney, by the way, mate. How dare you? A Cockney? Watching my videos? Get out of here, you. We're Cockneys, I'm afraid. Do you remember that? Whose sketch was that? We're Cockneys, I'm afraid. Is there a pie and mash shop around here? This is going to leave a lot of people who aren't English cold. Who did that? Anyway, whatever. Cockneys. Ah, you're a Cockney. I thought you were American. I don't know why I assumed you're American. He's a Cockney geezer. Hello. What do you think of that? It's good, wasn't it? Yes. Can affirmations help in overcoming emotophobia? In my case, specifically the fear of being angry. And if so, could you give an example of one or two as a starting point? Affirmations are a useful tool. They're not the weapon of choice for me in dealing with trauma response style. They're not a primary weapon. They're a secondary backup weapon. What you've described, you've said, I have emotophobia, specifically the fear of being angry. I would challenge the way you frame that question, and I would say, well, actually what you've got there is the trauma response of the emotional flashback of fight. So it needs to be treated within that metaphor, within that paradigm, within that narrative. But you want me to give you an affirmation for dealing with anger? There's ones that I've used over the years as a rageaholic, as a pure fight, fawn responder in terms of trauma. One that I started using years ago that helped me. It won't work for everybody, but it helped me a lot. Was it wasn't an affirmation per se, but it was a linguistic reframe. That my sudden rage attacks, I started to call them adult temper tantrums, and I was like, it's beneath my dignity to have to. Sorry, what I would say to myself is, it is beneath my dignity as a human being to indulge in adult temper tantrums. That works for me. So if I can see my behavior, if I can shame my behavior as something that is pathetic or self-indulgent, being pathetic and self-indulgent is so opposite to my core values that it works great in terms of leverage for me. So you need to find really what your core values are, and then the affirmations that you use should be either, if you are angry, then you are countering a core value that you really like, or if you are angry, then you're aligning with somebody else's core value that you really, really hate. So you got that would be stronger. You know, there are affirmations where, you know, I don't have to express myself in this way, or, you know, another thing that I found useful, that probably would be useful for anybody with anger issues, is I would remind myself the affirmation would be behind, what was it? Somebody said to me, it was actually a therapist that said it to me. Behind every anger attack is a wellspring of sadness, or something like that. I'm sorry, I'm not saying that very well. Behind every expression of rage is grief. And so he taught me to seek for the sadness. Like, I'm really angry right now, but where's the sadness? This was a Malaysian guy, Chinese Malaysian guy, who was very into Reiki. I can't remember his name right now, I'm afraid. And he taught me that a lot of my rage was really just sadness. And when I started to look for the sadness, I could see how my rage would frequently be a disappointment, grand scale disappointment with human nature, with the way people are, with the way people will permit themselves the indulgence of mistreating each other, of being lazy with each other in a way that they know causes other people pain, but they just don't fucking care. That's usually, if you ever meet me in person, I'm raging out about something, it will usually be a manifestation of that, or social injustice, which amounts to the same thing. Okay. I'm going to take a few more questions and then I must go. Okay. All right. Oh, there was another lady's question that I wrote down before. Right. Even if I'm doing much better now, I find it difficult to carve out my own path, especially regarding work. I feel that I have to create a new purpose in life, but I can't quite figure out what to do with the rest of my time. I somehow have to flip the switch from what others expect from me to what I want to do. But what do I want? Do you have any suggestions on how to tackle this question? Yes. Give up the idea. This is a big one. Give up the idea that you are some sort of an inept adult who is perpetually failing to live up to the standards of other adults and what other adults can do, and is therefore the recipient of judgment by other adults for not being good enough, just because, quote unquote, I don't know what I want. Bin that narrative, take a new narrative that's close to the truth, which feeds back into the question I was asked before, which is, how do we overcome the neurotic drive to take on other people's problems and feelings when we were forced into emotionally parenting our own parents? So the new narrative is, at an age before I could say no, and without my consent, I was hollowed out and had another person, an adult's needs, wants, drives, desires, fears, craziness pushed into me. I was carved out and had that pushed into me, and I became a vessel for somebody else's wants and needs. This damaged but didn't break certain essential parts of me, and I now need to do the work that allows those parts of me the space to begin to heal so that I can move on, because that's really what's happening. So let's go back to your question. I'll start from the top. Even if I'm doing much better now, I find it difficult to carve out my own path, especially regarding work. I feel like I have to create a new purpose in life. What does that mean? These are words that and sentences that people commonly bandy around that imply this implicit ideology, which is horse shit about life and about work. But I can't quite figure out what to do with the rest of my time. Why? What does that mean? I don't know what to do with the rest of my time. Who figures out what to do with the rest of their time? Oh, I see what's happening. You are carrying CPTSD and you're naive and you believe it when people bullshit you with their story of themselves, that they chose a career and that they sensibly chose what to do with the rest of their life. Okay, newsflash, they fucking didn't. They ended up doing that. They just ended up there. They're like little leaves on a stream, just rocking down a stream. They're like little twigs, and they end up in a place. But it doesn't feel good to the little fragile ego to say I'm just a twig with a bit of bird poopy on it. So they form a new narrative, which is, yeah, I totally wanted to do this really dull office job, and that's like my purpose in life, you know. But it's horseshit. They're lying. You feel that you have to create a new purpose in life, but you can't figure out what to do with the rest of your time. Does Spider-Man prefer vanilla or strawberry ice cream? The narrative, the words here, it's not, it's like corporate speak. I don't know, what is this? Are we gonna trickle down information and cross-fertilize ideas? Are you gonna CC me into that memo? This is not, I see what you're trying to do. You're reaching out for the things that you've learned as an adult that have helped you to an extent to feel like you have control and to feel like you have a place in the world, but you're using corporate ideas and silly bullshit, middle class, self-protective ideology nonsense that you've taken on as though it was sincere, which is not your fault. But it's not sincere, and it's a load of crap. And now you're trying to apply it to deep problems inside of yourself. You don't know what you want, well, because there might not even really be a you there to want anything. You might not even permit yourself to be a person in order to want something. This is very common for people with CPTSD. So how are you going to know what you want when you're not even there? There's just like a tiny little you that's in one corner of the space where you should be filled up, and you're just in the corner over there. Like, what do I want? You don't want anything. You want to survive. So you just stay there and do as you're told. Okay. And you're comfortable with that because you've always been told what to do. And okay, we'll just tell you what to do. And then when somebody says, okay, nobody's telling you what to do now, then you freak out and you go, I don't know what I want, because there isn't a you there to want anything. So that's my suggestion on how to tackle the question, is to turn it on its head. It's that was like psychotherapy on acid, man. Another suggestion I would have would be, you know, you got to pay your bills, you got to move forward, you got to put one foot in front of the other. Do something sensible. Do something sane. Do something that isn't going to hurt you. Do something that's going to be, if you don't know what to do something comfortable. If you don't know what to do something sane. If you don't know what to do something sensible. If you don't know what to do, if you don't know what to do, that's not a good moment to start taking crazy risks. If you don't know what to do, that's not a good moment to do something impulsive. That's a moment to do something inside the comfort zone. You need to do a bit more healing. Maybe now would be a great time to just give yourself some time and space. So what do you want? You want to know what to want. You want to be a person who has wants and drives, but that's going to take time. So give yourself the space to do that. Okay. Justin asks, what are your thoughts on using subliminal messaging to bypass the conscious mind? Are you familiar with Eldon Taylor and his work? If you have time, would you be able to discuss this topic a bit? I did at the beginning of the session, and I'm not familiar with Eldon Taylor. I think it's using subliminal, I wouldn't call it subliminal messaging, but there's only a difference in words. You know, I would say artful language or light levels of trance, something like that. But yeah, subliminal messaging, light levels of trance, artful language to bypass the conscious mind. It's very sensible, very, very sensible thing to do, and will work really well. Andromeda asks, oh no, it's a statement. Having the ability to discern whose emotions we are carrying and then drop the emotion base on usual habit and understand this habit is toxic, and learn to watch the person we talk to take accountability of the emotions they decide to express and experience. That's true. We cannot distort ourselves to the expectation of other people's emotional comfort. I agree. If you do, it can only hurt. It's a box that is not designed for you. And it's probably going to be a funny shape and possibly too small. Okie dokie. A few more questions and I must go. Sophie asks, in regards to the catastrophizing bit, are there any affirmations one can use when catastrophizing during injury or illness? The catastrophe being permanent injury, illness, or death. What? In regards to catastrophizing bit, are there any affirmations one can use when catastrophizing during injury or illness? The catastrophe being permanent injury, illness, or death. I don't think you know what catastrophizing is. Catastrophizing isn't an actual catastrophe, and you've mentioned an actual catastrophe, which is permanent injury / illness or death. Catastrophizing isn't an actual catastrophe. Catastrophizing is when you turn a neutral or not that bad experience into a catastrophe in your mind. So the boyfriend who comes home 5 minutes later than he would normally, that's a neutral incident. But you catastrophize it and you make up, you imagine, you force yourself to believe something that is not true, and then you put yourself basically into an emotional flashback. That's what catastrophizing is. Permanent injury, illness, or death is a legitimate, objective catastrophe, possibly. And that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a neurotic reframing of a normal situation into something that is dreadful. Jan says, hi Jan. For a long time, I pretty much hate everybody wherever I go. People try to turn me into a codependent. If you could give me some useful tips. What? I hate everybody wherever I go. People try to turn me into a codependent. I would need more information, Jan. I'm not, I can't really help you with that because I don't really know what's happening and I don't know you. If you're hating people wherever you go and you find that everybody's trying to turn you into a codependent, I would probably start by challenging that by saying everybody, everywhere, and then I would progress from there if we were in a coaching scenario, which we're not right now. Okay. Excellent. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it there. I hope you enjoyed that. Was a little bit more technically complex. I do recommend that you take the time to go and look up the Milton Model. If you can learn 4 or 5 of the Milton Model strategies and get good at applying them on yourself and maybe on other people too, provided you use your powers for goodness only, that could be really, really useful. As far as the hypnosis goes, if you're interested in experimenting, what very straightforward, extremely light levels of trance hypnotic suggestions could do for you in terms of CPTSD and moving on from an abusive relationship. The first aid kit is on offer at the moment on www.spartanlifecoach.com. Get the first aid kit if you fancy that. If you, obviously only if you're interested in that. And really only if you are coming out of an abusive relationship. It's not great if your issue is a family of origin. That's not what it's for. If you're looking to reduce the emotional flashbacks of an abusive relationship and to move on, then it's a really, really good place to start. Okay, ladies and gents, thank you very much for your time and for your attention. And I look forward to speaking to you in the next few days. Thank you.